Ever since the turn of the 21st century, animated films have become known for incorporating what are known as twist villains into some of their movies, with some famously pulling it off much better than others. But at the same time, this has also led to some debate over what exactly constitutes a twist villain, as the narrative sometimes seems to be indecisive over how much they want the audience to be surprised by certain revelations. And one of these villains would be Titan, the true villain of Megamind. Though not exactly set up to be a hero, he's not exactly set up to be a villain either, which have led many to wonder if he can actually be considered a twist villain or not. And today, I'd like to try and answer this question as best I can. Is Titan actually a plot twist villain or not? And like usual, there will be spoilers ahead in this video, so in case you don't want anything ruined, you should probably click off the video now. You have been warned. Alright, so to start off simply, I can easily see why some might be confused as to whether or not Titan's fall to villainy should be considered a plot twist. But before I offer anything in the way of opinions, let's look at the facts first. Now, as I got into in my video on Disney twist villains, which you can find a link in the description to, in order for a villain to be considered a twist villain, something about them must be revealed beyond the halfway point in a story that neither the characters nor audience previously knew about, or something concerning them must come to pass that nobody saw coming. So the logical question to then ask is, does Titan fit this criteria or not? And I'd honestly have to say, he does and doesn't at the same time. Because as a movie about a supervillain who isn't really evil, it's obvious that at some point another bad guy is going to rise, which will make Megamind rethink his own evil ways. Now, at first glance, most people would assume this villain would probably be Metro Man, since most movies of this nature will have the hero and villain reverse their roles before it's over. And before you bring up that the audience is supposed to believe that Metro Man is dead for most of the runtime, the trailers completely spoiled the fact that he had survived, which was done pretty much to assure parents that this was a movie appropriate for kids and that they weren't going to actually kill off a major character. So unless one never saw the trailer before they saw the movie, it wouldn't be hard to assume that some people would go in thinking that he would become the villain by the time all was said and done. However, even if that was the case, Metro Man isn't revealed to be alive until long after it's already clear that Hal is the actual bad guy of this story, so all of that is pretty much irrelevant. Although if one did go in believing that Metro Man was the real villain, then they might have been more likely to be taken off guard by Hal stepping into that role instead. And with the opening playing out the way it does, especially in portraying Metro Man as a brat who's not as nice or virtuous as he appears, which some might see as only backing up the suspicions they already had from the trailer, and intentionally or not, that could have actually made for the perfect red herring to some people. But even setting that aside and just looking at Hal's character directly, it's really hard to say for certain just how much the movie wants you to be fooled by his descent into villainy. Because at first he appears to be a character of no consequence. An obvious creep, yes, but he doesn't appear to be important in any way beyond just being Roxanne's co-worker, to the point that one might wonder at first why any focus whatsoever is being placed on such an unpleasant character. Then he gets infused with Metro Man's powers, which I could definitely see taking some people off guard, and after that he appears to become a whole different character. Suddenly he appears a lot more pleasant and happier, which at first glance seems to confirm Megamind's belief that he'll make for the perfect replacement for Metro Man. And this seems to be backed up by how well he responds to his training and appearing to genuinely want to do the right thing. But then things quickly go off the rails when he tries to woo Roxanne. Now, this is where the debate can come in over how surprising the following events that play out actually are. Because at this point, it is so obvious that Roxanne is going to end up with Megamind that you know she'll end up rejecting him for that reason alone. And there's also the fact that she had shown no interest in Hal up until that point, and that he goes about trying to charm her in the absolutely worst ways possible. Seriously, do exactly the opposite of him, and you'll find a lot more success in your love life, I guarantee it. So the point is, her turning him down is basically already a foregone conclusion. Now, one could argue that the way he reacts to it isn't so predictable, but considering the way he'd behaved earlier when similarly rejected, is it really that surprising? And on that note, the reveal not long after that he's become disillusioned with being a superhero and stole a bunch of valuable things just for the heck of it can similarly take people off guard, but I still don't know how surprising it is. Though if I'm being honest, it's probably more shocking compared to how things had gone down with Roxanne the night before. Now, his attempting to kill Megamind after he wins their fight shouldn't really come as a surprise at all, considering he only started the fight in the first place because Megamind had ticked him off so badly. Seriously, Titan told him to his face that being a superhero was for losers and that he wanted to be a bad guy, and he seriously thought that he would suddenly want to be a hero just because he made him angry enough? I will always maintain that that was Megamind's single stupidest mistake in the entire movie, as well as generally not picking up on the fact that this was not a game to Hal. So my point is, when he says game over, it honestly shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone in the audience who was paying attention to what was going on. Really. If there was a moment where anybody was going to be surprised that Hal was the villain, I would say it's the scene where he reveals he stole a bunch of stuff. But again, his reaction to Roxanne's rejection can also prepare certain people in the audience for that. And then, of course, after that his temper only gets even worse, so from there it becomes very clear very quickly that he's not going to back down and becomes a much bigger threat than Megamind ever was. But even with all of that, it's still kind of hard to determine if his fall is necessarily supposed to come as a shock. Because once again, the movie does nothing to hide the fact that Hal is not a pleasant person at first, but also manages to fool you for a while into thinking that he might actually make for a great hero. So really, I would say it all comes down to how well one can see what's going to happen next, as well as pick up on his initial behavior. And there's also some who may be shocked by it initially, but not exactly surprised, if that makes any sense. So in the end, I would really say that this is one case where it highly depends on the individual as to whether or not his being the bad guy is a plot twist or not. And that would be very befitting a movie of this nature, as it allows the audience to either pick up or not pick up on Hal's true character as they please, and thus affect how surprised they are when his villainous actions become clear. But once again, whether that's actually the case or if he was really intended to be a twist villain or not isn't something I can really answer with complete certainty, as there's simply too many variables to consider. As I said before, in the end, this is really a rare case where it might just come down to the individual themselves over how surprised they actually are by it. Okay, I think that's everything I had to say on that. So now I'd like to hear your thoughts. Do you believe that Titan is meant to be a twist villain in Megamind, or do you believe it's too obvious beforehand that he'll end up the bad guy for that to be the case? Feel free to let me know in the comments below. And like always, you don't have to agree with anything I said in this video if you don't want to. You can think I'm completely backwards about everything I said if you wish, and nobody can tell you that you're wrong. And thank you all for watching. I very much appreciate all of it. And I hope to see you all next time.